Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Eve. And Eve since Afterbirth, the latest expansion, has become a very good character in my opinion. She has those tools that kinda help her be excellent, and it also introduces like a risk versus reward tank that I feel that every character should have, at least to some extent, just because it makes them so much more dynamic and fun to play. If you don't know, Eve has a transformation which triggers if she only has one or less red hearts remaining, and that gives her greatly increased speed and damage. Well, in fact, if you're not in this transformation mode, her damage is actually one of the lowest in the game, and it takes like 3 hits to kill a spider, which is just such a pain. And it's great because, more experienced players can actually opt out to just take a hit with a razor blade, her spacebar item, to get into that transformation mode, and newer players can still opt out to kinda chill, and not take too many risks with their health. So it really introduces a nice dynamic, I think, in a character where you have to think when you're going to use a red heart and when you're not. Like for example, this time we could have just entered the curse room at the start and just deal our 1 heart of damage that way. But I just felt that it would be a bit more safe for us to kind of go through the floor, kind of explore, try to get some hearts. So I could afford to kind of deal with the floor better before I actually go into the secret room. Well, the curse room. There's a tinted rock here, but I don't have any bombs to use it now, so just kind of gloss over it. And we do manage to pick up Book of Shadows, which is one of the greatest items you can pick up in a daily run. It just gives you so many possibilities. The razor blade is fine and nice and all of that, but it really pales in comparison to the Book of Shadows, just because you can do so many more things. We do have to stay vigilant here because we have 1 heart and we are in that transform mode where we deal much more damage. We don't want to pick up any additional red hearts here. And what ends up happening, actually I pick up an item that gives us a red heart. But that's not a problem because we're still on this floor, and I do plan on going back to that razor blade and just kind of dealing 1 more damage to me intentionally, just so I stay in that transform mode for the later part of the run. I do use my Book of Shadows here to kind of kill the curse room and go out without taking damage. And I do manage to find a bomb as well, so that's always great. I have a lot of spirit hearts here, which will of course allow us to progress through this floor without getting red heart damage, and that means that we'll possibly or most likely get a devil deal at the end. With the Book of Shadows, you really don't have anything to worry about. You just use it whenever you can to kind of play the blood banks and avoid getting hit. Piercing shots, the Cupid's arrow item, is just another great example of an item like Book of Shadows that is just so helpful and just in general because you can do so much with it. It really allows you to kind of crowd control enemies in a way that no other item can. And that's the thing that makes things like Brimstone so great, because you can shoot more enemies at once, and it does allow you to kind of quintuple in your damage, depending on how many enemies are in the room. Like Pin here, I always like showing Pin getting brutally murdered. When he's jumping at you, he has a few sections that you can hit, and if you have piercing shots, like in our case, he just dies without ever knowing he even existed. Sadly, our devil deal didn't contain much here, and we still don't have any bombs, and in the dailies you really do want to get those bombs because you do want to find secret rooms, especially on dailies that only go to Mom. You really want to find second secret rooms because they are the most likely to contain an AWAS rune, which of course then helps to go further to the floors, so that means floors beyond Mom, because that way you can really get a lot of points. This room was double trouble, and we actually gained a champion Mega Fatty, and this is the version of Mega Fatty I hate the most, and the only reason I hate it the most is just because of those rock thingies that he shoots out. I'm not sure if there's like a pattern behind them. They seem very random to me most of the time, so it's very hard to dodge them if they're going towards you, just because not unlike any other projectile, if something is coming right to you and you go up or down, you're guaranteed not to get hit. But in this situation with those rocks that Mega Fatty has and some other bosses, it's actually very hard because they can trace you up and kind of hit you even if you try to dodge, and it just makes it very unfortunate, and it's hard sometimes to not get hit in those situations. We managed to find the blood bag, the IV bag, the blood bank, and then we played it with the Book of Shadows. And that's just great because it allows us to kind of take it and generate more consumables over the long run. I take a moment here to stop and just see what I'm gonna do. I know I have that Ivy bag back there and I want to keep it. So that means that I'm not too sad about losing my Book of Shadows. So I'm just going back here to see what I'm gonna do. But then I change my mind and say, okay, I'm gonna do something fancy here, or try to do something fancy here. So what I buy is buy Diplopia and double everything in the room, obviously, because it duplicates consumables as well as items. And then I take one of the dice shards, which act as a D60, a D20. I shouldn't have picked up that Book of Shadows. It was kind of an accident. You can see me just pacing up and down, kind of regretting it. Because that means we have one less item pedestal to reroll. So then, of course, I reroll all the consumables and all the items in hoping to get, some good items or a card that will allow us to go further than that. Here it's not a problem. I can pick up red hearts as much as I want because I do have that Ivy back waiting for me there. And in fact, I want to pick up red heart just because I do want to get, as many coins as possible. Having Ivy back actually also kind of, when you get the Polaroid, it allows you to kind of use it as a Book of Shadows, because using Ivy back when you have one heart and when you get to half a heart, it means that the Polaroid will trigger and give you that shield that the Book of Shadows gives you. The shield lasts not as long, sadly, but it does allow you to... But alongside that, of course, besides the shield, you do get those coins, which, of course, in turn increase your score overall and just really help you get some very nice things. So, a good combination with Ivy back is Cracked Dice. If you're not aware, a Cracked Dice is a trinket that whenever you take damage, you have a chance of rerolling every item on the floor. And because Ivy back contains coins, can spawn coins, then you can reroll those coins into chests and better chests, and then you can open those chests and get more consumables. And basically you can keep doing this infinitely many times, and eventually you're gonna get an AWAS rune, and that will allow you to go further than normal. So I just pick up Mom's Box, the spacebar item, in hopings, that I'm gonna be able to use it 2 or 3 times to kind of increase my chances to get that trinket, which of course then allows us to break the game and go further. What I decide to do here is just reroll everything, all the items, and we do get the sack head. Sack head is just such a great item because it spawns those. It has every consumable that drops has a chance to be transformed into a sack, which then in turn the sack has just on average more consumables. So that means a 1 bomb can be transformed into a sack, and then a sack can give you like 3 bombs, 4 bombs, some cards. Just overall a good item, a very a very positive item that just overall increases your chances of doing well on a run. With that in mind, we do have Sackhead and we do have that Ivy bag. So at this point we're kind of not worried about our consumables, just because we have some of the best items we can kind of hope for to increase our consumable count. And I'm in a kind of a rush and not just in a boss rush, because I have like a minute left and I need to get to Mom to kill her. And what I'm hoping to do here is actually get in boss rush and use my temperance card, my temperance and Ivy bag, to generate a lot of coins. And some of the coins from the temperance will actually turn into sacks, and those sacks have a chance to give us teleport cards. So that means that after we kill boss rush, we can then teleport out, hopefully, and finish the rest of the floor up. So that's why I didn't kind of feel bad for rushing here. And this will be played at a bit less than the usual 5 times speed, just like at a 2 times speed, just so I can tell you what's going on, because this boss rush is very vital, because we really want to get those cards so we can teleport out, or AWAS runes to kind of go further than that and not. So our plan here is to kind of try to accumulate trait hearts, and whenever we can, we use our blood bag, Ivy bag, and then play the blood bank at the same time. You can see we're getting some sacks already, and we got a resistance rune, which is great, of course, because resistance rune does allow us to kind of sustain more damage from enemies, and of course at the same time play the blood bank a few more times. Sadly, it explodes way too soon, and we don't get the teleportation card we need to get out of boss rush. Still, we still have that combo that I was explaining, the Polaroid and the Ivy bag, so we just use it every now and then to get some shield, and that just means that enemies won't be able to hit us, but at the same time we'll be actually spawning some sacks and coins because that will of course then allow us in turn to hopefully get a card or just something that will help us to progress further. Because we did get that Bloody Lust on the last floor, and Bloody Lust increases your damage the more damage you take, and because we're using the Ivy Bag every chance we can, our damage is kept out at this point, and with piercing shots, we make short work of any boss. So that's great, because, you know, besides just being strong, we can afford to kind of take those risks. You see, I had like 4 Spirit Hearts, and I only have 1.5. Using Ivy Bag doesn't count for a damage penalty, and I'm using it just to kind of generate invisibility. Luckily here we get some more points, and I still try to get a few more coins, but sadly we don't get the card we need. I was really banking on it, and sadly this time it didn't work out. Some players might have got it, I haven't, sadly. And we managed to finish in the 80th place, 85th place, which is a decent score overall. So, you know, of course we're gonna drop a bit, but that's just how it goes on mom runs. Sometimes you're gonna rank in very well because you're gonna find ways to go further, and sometimes you're not gonna rank as well because there will be no ways to go further. Either way, thank you for watching guys, and I hope I see you next time.